Hi, I'm Mariana. I'm a 32-year-old software engineer living in Austin, Texas. I always thought being the responsible daughter meant my family respected me. I was wrong. It was a Thursday night around 11 p.m. I had just gotten home from a late shift at work, exhausted from debugging code for 8 hours straight. Our house was quiet, or so I thought. I kicked off my shoes in the hallway and was heading to the kitchen for water when I heard voices coming from the living room. The door was slightly ajar, and I could see the glow of the lamp casting shadows on the wall. My father's voice was low but distinct. He was talking to my brother, Miguel. "Don't worry, son. We'll make your sister pay. She's always been the one with money anyway." I froze. My hand was still on the wall, steadying myself. My heart hammered so hard I thought they might hear it through the door. I held my breath, straining to hear more. Miguel laughed, this casual, relieved kind of laugh. "You think she'll actually go for it?" "She always does," my dad said. "She's never said no to us. Not once." My mother's voice chimed in, softer but just as certain. "Mariana's a good girl. She understands family comes first. She'll sign whatever we need her to sign." I felt my chest tighten, my throat closed up. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The three of them were in there planning something that involved me, something financial, and I wasn't even in the room. I backed away slowly, carefully, making sure the floorboards didn't creak. I went straight to my room, closed the door, and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at nothing. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you, have you ever overheard something that completely shattered how you saw your family? Drop a comment, and if you want to see how this unfolds, hit subscribe. I promise, by the end of this story, you'll see why that one sentence changed everything. Stay with me, because what they didn't know was, I had been documenting everything for years, and that night, I made a decision that would flip their entire plan upside down. The next morning, I came downstairs trying to act normal. My hands were shaking as I poured coffee, but I kept my face neutral. My dad was at the kitchen table reading the newspaper. My mom was making scrambled eggs. Miguel was on his phone, scrolling lazily. I took a breath. "Dad, can I ask you something?" He looked up, casual. "Sure, honey. What's up?" "Last night, I thought I heard you and Miguel talking about money, about me." His expression didn't change, but I saw the slight pause, the way his jaw tightened just a fraction. "You misheard," he said smoothly. "You're always so paranoid, Mariana. We were talking about bills, that's all." My mother turned from the stove, spatula in hand. "Don't create drama, Mariana. Your brother is going through a tough time. Family helps family." Miguel didn't even look up from his phone. He just smirked. "Maybe you should focus on your own life instead of eavesdropping." That word, eavesdropping, felt like a slap, like I was the one doing something wrong. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the coffee mug across the room. But I didn't. I just nodded, took my coffee, and left for work. Let me give you some context. This wasn't the first time I'd been the family ATM. 10 years ago, when Miguel was 22 and got accepted into a state university, my parents came to me. I was 22 too, fresh out of college, working my first real job. They said Miguel needed help with tuition. Just a little help. I gave them $15,000, then another 10 the next semester, then another 5 for his textbooks and living expenses. Miguel never finished. He dropped out junior year to pursue entrepreneurship, which, in his case, meant bouncing from one failed side hustle to another while living at home rent-free. 5 years ago, my parents almost lost the house. They'd taken out a second mortgage and couldn't keep up with payments. They came to me again. I was 27, making decent money by then. I gave them $40,000 to catch up on the loan. They promised they'd pay me back. They never did. And it wasn't just the big amounts. It was the constant little things. "Mariana, can you cover the electric bill this month?" "Mariana, can you pay for Mom's dentist appointment?" "Mariana, Miguel's car broke down. Can you lend him $2,000? I said yes every time. Because that's what good daughters do, right? You take care of your family. But that morning, after being called paranoid, after being told I was creating drama, I realized something. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource. 2 days later, I found out just how right I was. It was Saturday afternoon. Miguel had gone out with friends. My parents were at the grocery store. I was home alone, folding laundry in the living room, when I noticed Miguel's laptop sitting open on the coffee table. He'd left in a hurry and forgotten to close it. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But something in me, that conversation I'd overheard, made me walk over. The screen was still on. His email was open, and right there at the top of his inbox was an email from my father. The subject line read, "Plan to get Mariana to co-sign the loan." My stomach dropped. I clicked it. The email was from 3 days ago. My father had written to Miguel, "Don't worry about the bank requirements. We'll handle Mariana. She always says yes. We'll make her feel guilty about family duty. She'll fold. I've already drafted the documents. All we need is her signature, and you'll have the $150,000 for your new business idea. She doesn't need to know the details. Just keep it vague." Miguel had replied, "Sounds good, Dad. She won't even question it. She never does." D. There was an attachment. I opened it. It was a loan application document for $150,000, and at the bottom, there was a line for a cosigner. My name was already typed in. They were going to ask me to sign this. They were going to guilt me into it. And if things went wrong, if Miguel's business failed, if he couldn't pay, I would be on the hook for every penny. My hands were trembling. I took out my phone and snapped pictures of everything, the email, the attachment, every single word. Then I heard the front door open. I closed the laptop, shoved my phone in my pocket, and went back to folding laundry like nothing had happened. My parents came in with grocery bags. My mom smiled at me. "Mariana, honey, can you help us put these away?" I smiled back. "Sure, Mom." But inside, I was screaming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that email, about the $150,000, about the 10 years I'd spent giving them money, time, energy, and how little it had meant. I got out of bed and went to my closet. I pulled down a box from the top shelf, one I hadn't opened in years. Inside was an old savings passbook, the kind banks used to give you before everything went digital. It was pale blue, the edges worn and soft. On the front, in faded ink, were the words, "For Mariana's future." My grandmother Rosa had given it to me when I was 15. She'd passed away a year later, and I'd kept the passbook ever since, like a relic. Inside, she'd written a note in her shaky handwriting. "Mija, don't let them take what's yours. You deserve to build your own life." I'd forgotten about that note, or maybe I'd ignored it. But now, sitting on my bedroom floor at 2 in the morning, I read it again and again. My grandmother had known. She'd known what kind of people my parents were. She'd known they'd try to take from me, and she'd tried to warn me. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. I stared at the numbers. $340,000. A decade of saving, of living below my means, of skipping vacations and delaying dreams because I was always sending money home. And they wanted more. I thought about that email, about how my father had said I was easy to manipulate, about how Miguel had laughed. I made a decision. I opened a new tab and started researching banks. By 3 a.m., I had an account set up at a completely different institution, one my parents had never heard of. I scheduled a transfer for Monday morning, every penny, every single cent I'd saved. I changed all my passwords. I updated my email addresses. I made sure there was no way they could trace where the money had gone. And then I sat back and waited. Monday came. I went to work, like normal. My phone buzzed around noon. It was my mother. "Mariana, we need to talk about something important. Family meeting tonight at 6. Don't be late." I knew what it was about. They were going to ask me to co-sign that loan. I texted back, "I'll be there." But I wasn't going to say yes. Not this time. That evening, I drove home with my heart pounding. When I walked in, my parents and Miguel were already sitting in the living room. My father had a folder in his hands. The loan documents. "Mariana, sit down," he said, patting the couch next to him. I sat. "We have some exciting news," my mother said, her voice bright. "Miguel has a new business opportunity, a real one this time, and we think it's going to change everything for our family." Miguel nodded, looking earnest. "It's a tech startup, sis. I've been working on this for months. I just need some initial capital to get it off the ground. My father opened the folder. The bank approved a loan for $150,000, but they need a co-signer, someone with good credit and stable income. He looked at me. That's where you come in. I didn't say anything. My mother leaned forward. Mariana, this is a chance for Miguel to finally succeed, to make something of himself, and you'd be helping him do that. Isn't that what family does? I looked at the three of them, at the expectation in their eyes, the certainty that I'd say yes. And I thought about my grandmother's note. I need to see the business plan, I said. Miguel blinked. What? The business plan. If I'm going to co-sign a $150,000 loan, I need to see the plan. Projections, market research, everything. My father frowned. Mariana, you don't need to worry about those details. Yes, I do, I said. My voice was calm, steady. If my name is going on that loan, I need to see the details. Miguel shifted uncomfortably. I don't have it written down yet. It's still in my head. Then I can't sign. The room went silent. My mother's face hardened. Mariana, you're being unreasonable. I'm being smart. My father's voice turned cold. After everything we've done for you. Like what? I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Name one thing you've done for me that didn't involve me paying you back later. Miguel stood up. You're being selfish. And you're being a leech, I shot back. My mother gasped. My father's face went red. Get out, he said. I stood up. Gladly. I walked out of that living room, out of that house, and got in my car. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel, but I didn't cry. I drove to a coffee shop, ordered a latte, and sat by the window. I pulled out my phone and looked at my bank account. The new one. The one they didn't know about. $340,000. Safe. Untouchable. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt free. I didn't go back home that night. Or the next. I checked into a hotel near downtown Austin, a modest place with clean sheets and a desk where I could work. I needed space. I needed to think. But more than anything, I needed proof. For 2 days, my phone blew up with messages. My mother called 6 times. My father sent texts ranging from angry to manipulative. Miguel left a voicemail calling me dramatic. I ignored all of it. Instead, I sat in that hotel room with my laptop open and started digging. I went back through 10 years of emails, every request for money, every guilt trip, every promise to pay me back that never materialized. I organized them into folders by year, by person, by amount. I took screenshots of everything. Then I logged into my bank account, the old one, the one they knew about, and downloaded a decade's worth of statements. I highlighted every transfer I'd made to my parents, every Venmo to Miguel, every check I'd written for their mortgage, their bills, their emergencies. The total came to $287,000. I stared at that number for a long time. Almost $300,000. Money I'd earned through late nights, weekend shifts, promotions I'd worked my ass off for. Money I could have used for a down payment on a house, for traveling, for retirement, for my own life. Gone. And they wanted more. I pulled up that email again, the one from my father to Miguel about the loan. I read it over and over, making sure I had every word memorized. Then I searched Miguel's name in my email. I found more. There was an email from 2 years ago where my father told Miguel not to worry about paying me back for his car repairs because Mariana doesn't keep track of these things. Another from 4 years ago where my mother suggested telling me their water heater broke when really they just wanted money for a vacation to Cancun. They'd been lying to me. For years. I took screenshots of all of it. Then I backed everything up to 3 separate cloud drives. But I needed more than emails. I needed something undeniable. That's when I remembered my father's home office. I waited until Wednesday afternoon when I knew they'd all be out. My father had a Rotary Club meeting every Wednesday at 2. My mother went to her book club at the same time. Miguel was probably at the gym or a coffee shop pretending to work on his business. I drove to the house, used my key, and went straight to my father's office. His desk was cluttered with papers, old bills, sticky notes. I started with the filing cabinet. It was unlocked. My father never thought anyone would go through his things. In the second drawer, I found a folder labeled Mariana. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were copies of every check I'd ever written them, every bank transfer receipt, and clipped to the front was a handwritten note in my father's writing. Emergency fund, Mariana's contributions. Use only when necessary. Emergency fund. Like I was a savings account. I photographed every page. Then I found something that made my blood run cold. At the bottom of the folder was a practice sheet, my signature, traced over and over in pencil, then in pen. Different variations, some messier, some cleaner. Someone had been practicing forging my signature. I recognized the handwriting. It was Miguel's. They were planning to forge my name on those loan documents if I didn't sign willingly. I took a photo of that too. I was about to leave when I heard a voice behind me. "What are you doing?" I spun around. My mother stood in the doorway, her purse still on her shoulder. She must have come home early. "I'm collecting evidence," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. Her face went pale. "Evidence? Mariana? What are you talking about?" "I know about the loan," I said. "I know about the plan to make me co-sign. I know Miguel's been practicing my signature. I know everything." She stepped into the room, her expression shifting from shock to desperation. "Honey, you don't understand. We were just trying to protect you from the details. We didn't want to burden you with—" "Burden me?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You've been treating me like an ATM for 10 years. You've lied to me, stolen from me, and now you were planning to forge my signature? We would never—" "It's right here," I said, holding up my phone with the photo of the practice signatures. Miguel's handwriting, my name, over and over. My mother's face crumpled. For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. "We needed help," she whispered. "Your brother needs this chance." "My brother is 32 years old," I said. "He's never held a job for more than 6 months. He dropped out of college. He's failed at every business he's tried, and you keep enabling him by taking my money." "He's family," she said, tears streaming down her face now. "You don't turn your back on family." "No," I said quietly, "but family shouldn't turn you into a resource." I walked past her, folder in hand. "Mariana, please," she called after me. "Don't do this. Don't tear this family apart." I stopped at the door. "I'm not the one who tore it apart." I left. That night, I called the one person I knew would understand, my Aunt Claudia, my father's younger sister. Claudia had been estranged from the family for almost 20 years. I barely remembered her, just vague memories of a woman with kind eyes who used to bring me books when I was little. Then one day she stopped coming around and no one talked about her. I found her number through social media and called. She picked up on the third ring. "Hello? Hi, this is Mariana. I'm your niece. I don't know if you remember me." There was a pause. Then her voice came through, warm but cautious. "Mariana, of course I remember you. You were just a baby last time I saw you. I need to talk to you," I said. "About my father. About the family." Another pause. "What happened?" I told her everything. The loan, the emails, the forged signatures, the 10 years of giving them money. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Mija," she said finally, her voice heavy with sadness. "Your dad did the same thing to me 20 years ago." "What?" "When our mother, your grandmother Rosa, passed away, she left me an inheritance. $50,000. It was supposed to help me buy a house. Your father convinced me to lend it to him for his business. He said he'd pay me back in 6 months. "Did he?" "Never," she said. "When I asked for it, he called me selfish, said I didn't care about family. Your mother backed him up. Eventually, I stopped asking. And I stopped coming around." My throat tightened. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be," Claudia said. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to warn you. I should have reached out when you were older, told you what kind of man your father really is. But I hoped maybe he'd changed." "He hasn't." "No," she agreed. "He hasn't. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I'm not signing that loan, and I'm not giving them another cent." "Good," Claudia said firmly. Mariana, listen to me. You need to protect yourself. Get a lawyer if you have to. Change your passwords, your bank accounts, everything. They won't stop until they've bled you dry. I already moved my money, I said. Smart girl. I could hear the pride in her voice. If you need anything, a place to stay, someone to talk to, legal advice, you call me, okay? Okay. And Mariana, I'm proud of you. It takes guts to stand up to family, especially when they've spent years making you feel guilty for having boundaries. After we hung up, I sat in my hotel room staring at my phone. I had all the evidence I needed, screenshots, photos, bank statements, witness testimony from Claudia. But what was I supposed to do with it? I called a lawyer the next morning. Her name was Jessica Park, and she specialized in family law and financial exploitation. I found her through a legal aid website. When I explained my situation, she asked me to come in immediately. Her office was small but professional, with diplomas on the wall and a shelf full of legal books. She listened to my entire story without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and exhaled. Okay, she said. First, the good news. You haven't signed anything, so you're not legally obligated to that loan. The practice signatures are concerning, but since nothing's been filed yet, we can prevent it. And the bad news? The money you've already given them. Unless you have written agreement stating it was a loan, not a gift, it's going to be hard to get any of it back. My stomach sank. So they just get to keep it? Legally, yes. Unless you can prove coercion or fraud, which is difficult in family situations. She paused. But here's what we can do. We can send a cease and desist letter. We can put a fraud alert on your credit. We can make it very clear that any attempt to forge your signature or access your accounts will result in criminal charges. Will that stop them? It'll stop them legally, Jessica said. Emotionally, that's up to them. I nodded slowly. Do it. Send the letter. Set up the alerts. All of it. One more thing, she said. Are you prepared for the fallout? Once we do this, there's no going back. Your family will know you've lawyered up. They'll probably be furious. I thought about my grandmother's note, about Claudia's story, about 10 years of being used. I'm ready. 2 weeks later, my parents received the cease and desist letter. The same day, they called a family meeting. It wasn't at the house this time. It was at a restaurant, Maggiano's, an upscale Italian place downtown. My father had texted me the address and time, adding, "This is important. We need to clear the air." I almost didn't go, but part of me wanted to see their faces, wanted to see if they'd actually acknowledge what they'd done. I arrived exactly on time. They'd reserved a private dining room in the back. When I walked in, the whole extended family was there. My parents, Miguel, my uncle Roberto and Aunt Sophia, my cousins, even some family friends, easily 20 people. My father stood at the head of the table. He smiled when he saw me, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mariana, I'm so glad you came. Please, sit. I remained standing. What's this about, Dad? We're celebrating, he said. Tonight, we're announcing some exciting news about Miguel's business venture, and we wanted you to be part of it. My stomach twisted. They were still going through with it, even after the lawyer's letter. Miguel stood up, looking nervous but trying to hide it. Yeah, so I've been working really hard on this tech startup and... Let me guess, I interrupted. You're about to announce that I've graciously agreed to co-sign your loan? The room went quiet. My father's smile faltered. Mariana, because that's the plan, right? Get me in front of the whole family, pressure me into saying yes so I don't look like the bad guy? My mother stood up, her voice sharp. Mariana, you're embarrassing yourself. I pulled out my phone. No, Mom, I'm done being embarrassed. I opened my laptop. I'd brought it in my bag and connected it to the restaurant's TV screen. I'd called ahead and asked for the setup, telling them I was giving a presentation. The screen lit up behind me. Since we're all here, I said, let me share something. The first slide appeared. It was the email from my father to Miguel. Subject, plan to get Mariana to co-sign the loan. I watched my father's face go pale. This, I said, is an email my father sent 3 weeks ago. In it, he discusses how to manipulate me into signing a $150,000 loan for Miguel's business. Gasps rippled through the room. My Uncle Roberto leaned forward, squinting at the screen. "Next slide," I said, clicking the remote. The audio file icon appeared. "This is a recording of my father on the phone with his friend discussing the same loan. Let me play a clip." My father's voice filled the room. "She's always been easy to manipulate. We just have to make her feel guilty about family loyalty. She'll fold." My mother covered her mouth. Miguel stared at the floor. "Next," I said. Bank statements appeared. I'd highlighted every transfer in yellow. "Over the past 10 years, I've given my family $287,000. Here's the breakdown." I clicked through screen after screen. Tuition payments, mortgage payments, emergency funds, car repairs, medical bills. "And finally," I said, pulling up the photo of Miguel's practice signatures, "this is my brother practicing to forge my signature in case I didn't agree to co-sign willingly." The room erupted. People started talking at once. My uncle stood up, pointing at my father. "You were going to commit fraud?" My father's face was red. "You're twisting this, Mariana. We were trying to help you understand." "Help me understand what?" I said, my voice cutting through the noise. "That I'm not family? That I'm just a bank account with legs?" Miguel finally spoke up, his voice defensive. "You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" I turned to face him. "You've never held a job for more than 6 months. You dropped out of college after I paid $30,000 for your tuition. You've failed at every business you've tried, and Mom and Dad keep giving you my money to try again." "That's not fair." "What's not fair," I said, "is that I've spent 10 years sacrificing my future for yours, and instead of being grateful, you call me an ATM." Claudia, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, stood up. I'd invited her that morning. "She's telling the truth," Claudia said, her voice steady. "Mariana's father did the exact same thing to me 20 years ago. He took my inheritance from our mother, $50,000, and never paid me back. When I asked for it, he called me selfish." "Sound familiar?" Several relatives turned to look at my father. One of my cousins muttered, "Jesus Christ." My father tried to regain control. "This is about family loyalty." "Loyalty?" I cut him off. "You taught me that loyalty means being used, that love means saying yes even when it destroys you. Well, tonight, I'm teaching you what boundaries look like." I clicked to the final slide. It was a screenshot of my new bank statement. Zero balance in the account they knew about. "I've moved every penny I own to a new account," I said. "I've consulted a lawyer. I've put fraud alerts on my credit, and if anyone tries to forge my signature or access my funds, I will press charges, criminal charges." My mother started crying. "How could you humiliate us like this?" "I'm not the one who should be humiliated," I said quietly. I looked at Miguel one last time. "Good luck with your startup. You're on your own now." I picked up my bag, closed my laptop, and walked out. Behind me, I heard chaos, shouting, my father trying to explain, my mother sobbing, relatives arguing, but I didn't look back. 3 months later, I was standing on the balcony of my new apartment in Portland, Oregon, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. I'd taken a new job, a senior engineering position at a tech company that valued my skills and paid me what I was worth. My salary had jumped 40%. I had my own place, a 1-bedroom with hardwood floors and a view of the city. It was small, but it was mine. I'd started therapy. Twice a week, I sat in a comfortable chair and talked about growing up as the responsible one, about how being needed had felt like being loved, until it didn't anymore. My therapist helped me understand that what my family did had a name: financial exploitation. And that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was survival. Claudia and I talked every Sunday. She'd become the family I wish I'd had all along. Supportive, honest, asking nothing of me except to be happy. My parents tried calling for the first few weeks. My mother left tearful voicemails. "Mariana, please, we need to talk. Your brother's business failed. We need your help." I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. Miguel sent one text. "Hope you're happy. You destroyed this family." I didn't respond to that either. The truth was, I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. Last week, Claudia told me my father had called her, asking for money. She said no. Then she told me something that made me smile. It felt really good. I went to my closet and pulled down the blue savings passbook, the one my grandmother had given me 15 years ago. I opened it and read her note again. "Mija, don't let them take what's yours. You deserve to build your own life." I sat down at my kitchen table and wrote a letter to my future self. To the woman I'd be at 60 when all of this would be a distant memory. "Dear future Mariana," I wrote, "you did it. You broke the cycle. You walked away from people who only loved you when you were useful. You chose yourself. And I know it hurt. God, it hurt so much. But you survived. Grandma Rosa would be so proud." I folded the letter and placed it in the passbook, then put the passbook on my bookshelf next to a framed photo of my grandmother. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Claudia. "Dinner this weekend? My treat. Let's celebrate your 3-month Portland anniversary." I smiled and typed back, "I'd love that." As I looked out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the dusk, I thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. I lost my parents, my brother, the illusion of a happy family. But I gained myself, my peace, my future, and that was worth more than any amount of money. Walking away isn't cruelty, it's survival. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. So, have you ever been gaslit by your own family? Have you been called selfish just for protecting yourself? Drop your story in the comments. I'll read them, and I believe you. And if this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, because next week, I'm sharing another story about breaking free from toxic family dynamics. You won't want to miss it. Remember, you don't owe anyone access to your peace, not even family.